All I know, especially before we get to our next topic here, when we really crank up the controversy, is that the Giants have to figure out some way to maybe shoulder braces, so to make it physically impossible for Toby Green to raise his arms, because especially if the first game he comes back, if he raises his arms, I think the AFL is just going to kill him. They're just going to old yeller him on the field, and then he's never going to play a game of footy again.
We haven't even fully gotten into it, and he's already having jokes about this. Oh my gosh, seriously! So, all right, let's bring this full freaking circle. Okay, there's so much being overblown about this arms up controversy. Again, what I find fascinating is everybody's like, it's just random arms up. These are not just random arms up. Okay, let me. I don't want to soapbox, but I'm going to soapbox here. Every single one of the 50-meter penalties that is being discussed was said from AFL House to be correct, because basically all this is come on, referee, what are you thinking type of gesture. None of them were, what are you thinking, best friend who's also wearing my same jumper. No, these were all facing the umpire or directed at the umpire. So this arms up controversy, as they're trying to dub this, is really kind of ridiculous in the long run. Okay, they had said at the start of the season that they were going to stop dissent from the players, and everybody saw all the drama after Melbourne got hit with 8 of them in one game, giving up 6 goals to the Carlton Blues. But then the funny thing was, most people didn't talk about it, as the rest of the Amy series, there was only 3 50-meter penalties the rest of the Amy series, and there was 2 games apiece. So again, this all of a sudden up in arms crap is kind of surprising to me, because it was nipped in the bud. First week of the final, first week of the regular season, first week of home and away. What happened? There were 3. That was it. But then, and here's where I'll give some of the people's discussion points. Yes, I think the umpires slacked off. They let a few go here and there. And then Thursday night footy happens. One umpire sees Harris Andrews raise his arms at him in question, blows the whistle, 50-meter penalty. The umpire dissent, and all hell breaks loose after that, because any time that a player raised his arms anywhere near the referee that wasn't called, they talked about it. And then the Hawthorn game happens, and it just blows up like Mount St. Helens. Here's my point that I'm going to make, and I know this is going to ruffle some feathers, and I said this, and I'm going to say this. I completely agree with what AFL House has said. I completely agree with the 50s that were paid, and I completely understand how upset people were that many were not called that were obvious 50-meter penalties. Now, I'm going to ask this question, and anybody that has watched sports knows this answer, because it's very simple. Have you ever seen a referee have a discussion with a player and go, you know what, you're right. You proved me wrong. I'm going to change my mind. I have never, in my 37 years of life and my over 30 years of watching sports, ever seen a referee change his mind because a player or a coach told him he was wrong.
Nope.
So I'm going to say this right now. The people complaining this is ruining the game, you are literally dying on a hill that is not worth it. You are literally complaining about something.
A lot better hills.
Exactly. You are wasting your time. Accept what the umpire has called and move on. And then my other favorite one is like, well, you're telling them to be robots. No, I'm telling them to not react, because you're wasting your time reacting. I understand sports is emotional, but you also have to understand that umpire is doing the best he can. The umpire is trying to do the best he can, okay? You cannot fault him if he is not perfect, okay? They are not robots.
Well, why not,
so
Donnie?
Don't
I'm
expect
a fan.
them
It's
to
not
be.
my right.
I understand. Okay, and that's a great, man, you're getting better at this. Another good point. But here's the thing. You're a fan. You're not a player. Mm-hmm. But then again, though, are you going to change the mind screaming at your television or your iPad or your computer screen? No.
Yes, they can hear me.
Nothing is
There's
going.
Speakers in there.
Sometimes
That's
I
how
swear
fans
some
think.
fans think that.
But also, with this, I completely understand the anger behind it, because I can speak as a former athlete. I played football, gridiron for you guys for 11 years. I've been a fan for even longer. When it comes to refs making horrible plays, it's almost or horrible calls. It's almost instinctual, to be honest. Luckily, I only had officiating problems a couple times in my career. Nothing crazy. I definitely wasn't hitting them. But there's a couple where you go bullshit or stuff like that. The typical. So I understand the anger, and especially being in the heat of the moment, it's a very intense sport, and so intense feelings come out, especially me, because I kind of had anger issues, but that's besides the point. And so I get it. But also I understand the AFL's reasoning behind this, because it's like a lot of the rulings they've been making where they don't want this to trickle down into the youth leagues, especially when it comes to the mistreatment of umpires, even though some of those bastards deserve it. That's definitely an athlete talking right there, not the normal person thinking. But I get it. I guess the one thing here is I do think this rule's a total overstep, though, because heaven forbid the AFL stops me from trying to go to the ref and trying to just dance and raise the roof with him and enjoy a little bit of fun time. As soon as I do that, I'm trying to be a good person. I'm trying to bring in a welcoming environment and a little dance-off to determine this rule, and he gives me a 50 for that. Come on, man. This is bullshit. 1984.
Like I told you off camera, it is when it's gestured at the umpire is when it's a 50. If they're sitting there doing the funky chicken or sitting there raising the roof or trying to make sure the roof isn't on fire, the referee's just gonna, the umpire's just gonna, the umpire, and I said referee, my gosh, the comment section is gonna be fun. The umpire is not gonna call you if you're sitting there doing a dance. It's when you literally look at him and you make a gesture of what the heck are you doing, or why the heck did you call that?
That's when
you're going to get
that's
a
the
50.
lyrics. The lyrics go, "What the heck are you doing?"
Oh, you're really finding it. You're really finding this so much fun. So, again, my biggest thing that I say is that it's an issue that honestly I see a lot over here in the States. Is that there is way too much wrapped up in some of these sporting events that it's like many of the issues that I see in youth sports are because the professionals are allowed to do some of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life. Those umpires, those referees, no matter what sport you are, should be respected because they're doing something that not a lot of people like to do. No. Because you're never going to appease a fan or a player. Because you're always going to be on the bad side of both teams, no matter what. If you call it one way, you're deemed to be the other way. So it's like, I think it needs to be taken out of all sport. I think there's way too much umpire, referee, official bashing, and it annoys me as a sporting person because I think every single person should try to be an official for one day, because you'd be shocked how much crap you have to deal with being an official. And this is coming from somebody. I've umpired AFL games. It's not, or footy games. I apologize for those people that are
it's
AFL and footy
AFL.
are two different. Okay.
Well, you call it
Aussie
MMA
rules
UFC
football
next?
is not
Unbelievable.
Exactly. Aussie rules football is not an easy sport to umpire. It is not. It is very, very difficult because not only of the subjective nature, but also just the distance that you have to cover. So
it's a large field.
Please. Oh yeah, exactly. And sometimes you have to do a large field with only two people, not three, like the professionals do. So it's a much, much bigger task, even more. So exactly. So take a step back, ladies and gentlemen. Take a breath. I mean, these people are human, just like the players. You gotta take a little bit of, I understand that you're a supporter. I understand that you're a fan. I understand that you love the sport, but you also have to understand that they're not trying to fuck up. They're not, okay? They're not. They're trying to do their best. You have to give them a little bit of leeway, and that's the same thing for the players. You have to give them a little leeway. They're not going to get everything perfect. So sitting there and yelling at them like they're going to know that they're wrong is ridiculous. And I'm sorry. I'm going to be very blunt about it. The umpires are correct that called the 50s. The umpires that didn't are incorrect. They should be fixed. And I'm hoping that it's cracked down to the point, but I want it to stay the entire season. I don't want to see a lapse. I want to see them calling it each and every time, because I'll tell you this, in 2 rounds, you won't have a problem with it because the players will adjust and the players will adjust quickly. I think the reason this is a controversy is because of the media, not because of the players, not because of the umpires. It's because of the media. The media made a big deal out of this. That's the reason why. In 2 rounds, this is not going to be, in less than 2 rounds, this will not be an issue because the coaches will literally lay the law down. The players will figure it out and they will adjust. They adjusted during preseason. They can adjust now. Let's stop making a mountain out of a molehill.
So here's the solution that I present to you guys. Do what you do best as supporters, as fans of either your team or the league, even some players as well. The best way to make your opinions known is to bitch about it on Twitter where you cannot get 50. All right? Their problem solved. And